and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, and today we are going to talk about helping your child find his or her spark. My guest is our Healthy Families consultant, Alvean Lyons. Welcome.
Thanks, Robin.
This is a fun topic.
It is,
because,
isn't
you
it?
know, there are kids who come out of the womb knowing what they're doing. And there are kids who are still figuring it out in their 20s.
Yes,
or,
and then
you know,
we have
some of
friends
us
that are
even
still
later.
figuring it out in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah, it's a hard thing, but it's fun.
It's true. It's true, especially when they find it. You know, the tough thing is figuring out what role we're supposed to play in the process as parents,
Yes.
you know? Because you don't want to manipulate who your children are designed to become.
Right.
But you want to make sure
Some
that
parents
you're
do.
nurturing
They're like,
that.
you're going to follow in my footsteps. And that
Now,
doesn't
I'll give
always
you that,
work.
absolutely. Especially a lot of parents who have family businesses. And, you know,
Yes.
you're looking to pass these things on that you've worked so hard at to your children. So I do definitely understand that that does happen as well. But many of us just want to make sure that we did our part in helping our kids sort of navigate that space into whatever his or her real purpose is. You know, who are you meant to be in this world, and how do I help you get there? So we're going to start with an acronym, as usual, that is very simple, but really speaks to the things that perhaps would make a difference for us as parents in our responsibility in this process. So we're going to use the word talk, because ultimately nothing happens in parenting until we're talking to each other. So starting with the T. Teach your kids emotional independence. Now, what do I mean by that? See, a lot of times we teach our kids how to feel about what it is that they experience each day. So they'll come home and they'll tell us, hey, I had this happen, so-and-so did such and such, and we're already telling them, oh, that's not important, or don't worry about that, or this isn't gonna matter, or you're not even really that upset about that, you know how you felt about that last time. We're already telling them how to feel, and that carries on as you get older. When people teach you that your feelings are not accurate, it's hard for you to trust those feelings when you get older. So when you start to get excited about something, can you trust that excitement? When you think that this feels right for you, can you trust that that feels right for you?
Because you don't want a kid who looks outside to
Right.
say, does this feel right for you guys, what I'm doing?
That's
No, you want them
exactly
to
right.
look inside.
They need that internal compass. But the only way to encourage that is to allow them to develop that when they're younger. So we can't go back and fix whatever we didn't quite do exactly the way that we should have before. But what's important is, as we go forward, make the next right decision. Let your kid experience what it is he or she is feeling. Let them give words to those things. And it's okay if what they think is the issue is different than what we think is the issue. We can share our perspective, but we can't tell them how they feel. Emotional intelligence is going to be very important to having the confidence that they're going to need to really venture out into the things that they would pursue. And in a world that is so good at kind of biting at people when they're pursuing their dreams, we need our kids to be internally strong. And a lot of that comes from how we teach them how to manage their emotions as they're growing.
Okay.
So then we're going to move to A. Ask as many questions as you possibly can. A lot of times our kids don't just, especially as they go into their teenage years, they don't just readily, just tell you everything that's going on.
Yeah.
You know, you actually have to dig for some of that stuff. And a lot of times we have a tendency to feel like, okay, maybe I'm intruding. You know, maybe I'm pushing too hard. Maybe,
especially with teenagers, when you have to push and push and push.
It's true. It's true. And you find yourself kind of saying, okay, well, I'm going to let them slide on that. But the problem with letting them slide is that it becomes a way of and culture between us.
Right.
That eventually it's just, Mom, my day was fine. And that's supposed to suffice as an answer for what's going on with your life. You know, how are you doing? I'm fine. What does fine mean? I'm fine, Mom. That doesn't mean anything. We don't know if you're in trouble. We don't know if you're in trouble. We don't know if you're happy about something. We don't know if you're sad about something. We don't know if you're struggling. You can't save your babies if you don't know where your babies are, and there are babies no matter how old they get. So we can't let them get away with that, but we can't let ourselves get away with that either. Because quite frankly, when you're dealing with some tough teenagers, you're glad to not have to hear it today sometimes.
You know, That's really true. And
Yep.
it does become easier for them and easier for you not to really talk
Right.
sometimes.
And we're not talking, which means we're not connecting, which means we're not building greater intimacy in our relationship, which means that we're not strengthening ourselves as a team, and it means that we're not strengthening our families. I mean, it has a domino effect that the only way to be able to fix that is to step all the way back to where it begins, and it begins in the conversations. So we want to make sure that we are asking questions that stimulate conversation and not closed-end questions. And let me be clear about what the difference is. When you ask a question where your kid can just answer yes or no, that's a closed question. That doesn't require them thinking. It doesn't require them expressing feelings. It doesn't require them exploring thoughts. You need to ask open-ended questions. What'd you think about your day? What made it good? What did you enjoy about it? What irked you today? Not, were you irked today? Was it tough today? Each of those questions, you could just say, yes, it was tough. Yes, this irked me.
Yeah, I had a
no,
bad
it was
day.
a no. Yeah. Those things don't require any kind of real exchange. So make a conscious effort to ask open-ended questions so you get a chance to find out information that you wouldn't normally get. And sometimes they'll pause. I have a teenage son. So when I ask some of these questions, it just goes silent for a little while.
And you have to ride that out. You can't
And
jump
that's
in.
exactly
you can't
right.
give them an out.
And we have a tendency, particularly as mommies, to do that. Dads don't typically do that, which is funny. They're totally cool with the silence. Moms, we want to fill the silence very often, but we can't. We've got to give them room to work through that silence and to find words for what it is that they're experiencing. They will need those words later. One day they will be husbands and fathers. They're going to need those words. So we've got to create the environments for them to begin to develop those things. And
Okay.
it will be sticky sometimes, and it will feel like trudging through the mud sometimes, but we've got to go ahead and go through the process. You'll be glad that you did. And if you're having a tough time figuring out how to do that, we have nurturing classes for our younger kids from 2 to 12. We have strengthening your families classes from 13 to 17. So those are those tougher years. We have classes to help you work through those processes. So Healthy Families is always here to support you and your kids through any age and stage of development.
And if you start when they're younger, they're a little more used to it.
It's
They'll still
true.
pull back, or at least
It's
some of them
true.
will, but you've laid the groundwork.
You've created a foundation, and that foundation creates an environment, and that environment creates a culture in your family. And at any point, like I said, don't beat yourself up about the fact that, okay, I didn't know this before, or I didn't think about this before, or I was too busy to be able to make that a priority before. That's all of that. All you can do is the best you can do at the time. That's all you can do. But once you figure out that there's something else you can do, even incrementally, even in small ways, then do that thing, because that's what makes us great parents. When we lean forward just a little bit each day to be better than yesterday, but not perfect. So just allow yourself the room to be able to grow. But it really begins with asking questions with your kids, open-ended questions. Then L, let them express how they feel without the fear of consequence. Now, I'm not saying allow your kids to be disrespectful. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that it's okay for kids to use vulgarity and inappropriate words. I'm not saying that either. What I am saying, however, is if one of the things that they need to say about what they're struggling with includes a critique of something that we have done, understand that they need to have the freedom to be able to tell the truth about that. We are not perfect parents, and a lot of times we have great intentions, but sometimes what we intend versus what they experience are not the same things. We've got to be okay with hearing them say, when you do this, it makes me feel like this, and I don't like it, and I really wish that you would stop. And I know that that may be rough to hear, because most of us are used to, growing up in age and stages where your parents did whatever they did, and whether you hated it or not, you just stuffed it. But it's not helping our kids in this kind of world that we're dealing with. We don't want them to find safety and security somewhere else other than home. But if somewhere else I could be my full self and tell the truth, but at home I have to lie and stuff who I am, guess what environment is going to get more of your kids' investment? So we've got to create atmospheres that our kids can be honest about what they're experiencing so that we can work through those things. Because helping your kid find what their purpose to do has a lot to do with knowing who they really are as people and what they're really struggling with and what really makes them excited. But you can't find out any of those things if you don't create the environment for that stuff to be open and honest.
That's a hard one. Okay.
So we're gonna let them be honest. We've got to let them express how they feel without consequence. And then finally, K, you're gonna have to keep building those bridges. A lot of times we think, okay, I've done what I need to do, checked it off the list. My kid's 18, woo, we made it. Like we look for these little boxes. Okay, they're out of elementary school, cool, they're independent enough to do. And the truth is, there's really not that arrival space. Parenting is a constant evolution. You move from those stages, and we've talked about it in previous shows, where first you're the supervisor, then you're the manager, then you're the consultant, but do understand at every one of those stages, you're still part of their lives. And you make a real difference in their lives, despite what they may show. Sometimes they don't have the language to be able to tell us the difference that we're actually making, good or bad.
Well, and part of them becoming independent is not necessarily admitting to it or talking about it.
It's true.
They're growing into who they're going to be, and they don't want to necessarily see your influence in that.
No.
That doesn't mean it's not there.
That's exactly right. They want their own footprint in the world, and they want it to be unique to who they are. One of the most important things people pursue is the fact that they are visible, that they are seen, heard, and what they say matters, what they think and feel matters. And in order to be able to do that, it does require some pulling away from those apron strings of our parents and being able to say, this is who I am. And like it or not, this is who I am. And it's okay. Like, it really has to be okay with us, because the truth is, that's what we want. We want our kids to not need us to pay their bills and to take care of them when they're adults,
and
to be able
decisions.
to pick who it is that they're going to love and partner with, and
because it doesn't work out very often.
It
If
is
we're
true.
the ones who pick it and they're pleasing us in terms of career or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, major in college, whatever that is, if they're doing that for us, it's not going to work out in the long run for
That is so true.
for their happiness.
and what they're created to do. And no two of your children are the same. So what
Couldn't be
the
more
older
different.
brother was like, or the older sister was like, do not expect that in the next child. If it so happens, great, but make sure that it happened because that's who that child was, and not because we made them into another child. Because you're right, in terms of the quality of their life and their happiness, their fulfillment is based on them finding themselves and being able to express that in the world, to have their own footprint and their own handprint in the world. So when we look at helping them to develop their spark, we're really talking about the internal strength that we have to help create for our kids so they can step out there and be great.
And see, when I first heard this topic, that wasn't what I was thinking. I was thinking it's career, vocation, testing things out, but it's about giving them the independence and the voice to figure it out.
That's exactly right. And it is.
Don't we want to meddle?
We want to fix it. We want to make it all
Yeah.
right. We want to protect them from the little potholes. We want to save them for everything. But resilience is built in their ability to get knocked down and stand back up and be proud of themselves that they were able to do it on their own. Because if we don't let them have their failures, then they don't get to own their successes either.
Yeah, and
And
if
they
they're
need
not
to have
used
that.
to learning from failure, it'll crush
true.
them. If
It's
it
true.
starts happening when they're, out of the house, all of a sudden you feel those consequences. It's devastating.
The impact would be tremendous. We want to prepare them so that we can launch them out into the world secure and capable of being able to deal with all of the things that being a young adult and then an adult and then a real active and positive contributor to your community, all of those things that are going to matter. But that spark is built in what it is that we do with our kids on the inside. We have to give them the stuff that they need so they can pursue who they were meant to be. And sometimes it's not as easy as it sounds, but it's worth it when we make those investments. So we got to talk to our kids, but we're talking to them in different kinds of ways now. We're teaching them emotional independence. We're asking open-ended questions so that we're having real dialogue with our kids. And we're wading through those muddy times when they don't have the words. Wait patiently and let them find them. We're letting them tell the truth about how they feel without fear of consequence. They have to be able to trust that it's okay to tell the truth at home. That's where they'll make their investments if that's the case. And then we've got to keep building those bridges. No matter how tough they can be, we never stop, and there's not a drop-off point. We just evolve as parents, and we have to be okay with that evolution.
Good. Okay, I've got that. I'm ready to work on it.
We can do it.
We
we
can
really
do
can.
it.
Every day, incrementally, we can
Okay.
do it.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Alvean.
Absolutely, Robin.
And thank you for watching. I hope that you will work on talking better and understanding your child and letting your child find that in his or herself. Thanks for watching.